Hello, good Woch, and good Chodesh, Chodesh Elul, Gewalt. It's amazing. We have Parshas now that last week's Parsha we're talking about Vaya Ekev Tishmeun, if you will hear. This week's Parsha goes, Rei, see, about the senses. Rabbi Nachman says, see that I put before you blessing and a curse. So he's saying that when the Torah comes from Kadosh Baruch Hu, it comes unformatted, and it's up to you to make either a bracha or chas v'chalila a klala from it. I mean, the people that are to get divrei Torah, and later they misuse them, it becomes a klala. It can, from being, something that people use for personal pride, or up to the point that they're actually persecuting the true tzadikim. So that's what it says, Ekev Tishmeun, see, I am giving, when I'm giving before you, it's neutral. Lifnechem, before you, according to your kalim, according to your faculties, according to how you have formatted your kalim. This is what determines whether it's going to be a bracha or a klala. This is something lifnehem. This is the Torah has some chaim and some mavet. The Torah has either force. It all depends how you choose to take it. So, without further ado, Mizat Hashem, let's start with our first story from the Baal Shem Tov. It's a story that Baal Shem Tov wanted to go on a journey, and because the time came, for Kiddush Levana in Chutz La'aretz, in Ukraine, there are many instances that if a person didn't catch the auspicious time to say Kiddush Levana, it could be months that, won't be able to. So he decided to wait until the nightfall, to make a Berkas Levana. And when the time came, the Baal Shem Tov took one of his Talmidim to make Kiddush Levana. And while the Baal Shem Tov was Mekadosh Levana, the Baal Shem Tov asked his student not to look back, because the Baal Shem Tov saw that a thief came and stole the reins from the horses, because he didn't have enough money for Shabbos. And the Baal Shem Tov did not want the thief to be embarrassed. So after Kiddush Levana, the Talmud saw that, somebody stole the harness from the horses. And he started crying out, who stole the harness? Who stole the... So Baal Shem Tov told his student, don't shout. Go to this specific person and ransom the harness, because this thief the thief that stole it has pawned the harness there. And be very, very careful not to advertise, make known the name of the thief. Besides the fact that you learn from this how important it is not to embarrass a Jew, that transgresses the Torah, and to learn the lamed schus on him. It is important because that enables a Jew to do tshuva, because if he is publicly embarrassed, it can at time make things far worse. And because of the embarrassment, he can go and the Maisa, the Dafka from one of Talmid of Baal Shem that was sitting in the Bismedrash whole week. And he was sitting in Tainus. This is a story that David Achman said. Or Nosa, I'm not sure. And this particular Talmud was a Talmud of the Baal Shem. You're talking about, really, really serious David Hashem that fasted all week and learned Torah. And it so happened one day, at those days, what they would do is they would store the Erev, take matzah, they make Erev, for the entire town. They would make it so the Erev would be stored in the local shul. Now this Jew, this tzaddik, was in the middle of a tainus, and he got so weak that he had to eat, pikuach nefesh. So he actually stood on a chair or whatever, and he took down the Erev to eat it, because it was pikuach nefesh. And it was a simple guy that came in and saw him and started shouting at him, "Oh, look at you, the big tzaddik, the big who knows what. Just a common thief you're eating, giving everybody the impression that you're sitting there, tinus the whole week. When nobody sees, you go and you eat from the Erev. You're just a faker." And that had an effect on this tzaddik that he totally fell off the derech. Completely. Shem Rachem. I mean, it's to embarrass a Jew is a horrible, horrible thing. Be very careful. We'll tell now the story of Baal Shem Tov before we go in Hashem to the story of the Rebbe Melech. Once a person from Lita, Lithuania, came to check on the Baal Shem Tov, and he was a guest by Rabbi Chil, the Talmud of Baal Shem Tov. I think that he was also the Baal Shem Tov's son-in-law. And Erev Chodesh, he davened together Baal Shem HaKodesh in his Besmedrash, and he loved the tefillah. At the end of the tefillah, he went after the Baal Shem Tov to eat in his house. And when he came to the house, he saw the Baal Shem Tov was screaming at his servant, Goshi's servant, and ordered him to quickly run to the horses, because one of the horses has strangled itself, was strangulating itself, and is going to die. So the slave said to Baal Shem Tov, the servant said to Baal Shem Tov, "Okay, I'm going." Baal Shem Tov became very upset with him, and he wanted to hit him. And so the servant went and he saw Vapella, yeah, the horse strangled itself and was almost died. And he saved the horse. And the guest saw this and he was like astounded. How is it possible after such a tefillah, because of a horse, the Baal Shem Tov was so upset with his slave, almost beat him up, especially in Shabbos Chodesh. In the morning, Tefillah Shachris again, he was amazed by the tefillah of the Baal Shem Tov, but still, he had this kasha with Baal Shem Tov, why he was so angry at his servant. And Motzei Shabbos, when it came time to go back home, he told Rabbi Yechiel, the Baal Shem Tov's Talmud, this kasha that happened in his heart. So Rabbi Yechiel told these things to the Baal Shem HaKodesh. Baal Shem HaKodesh says, he comes to check me out. Does he even know what happened? He says, I'll tell you what happened. At the minute that I was upset with my servant, there was a Jew that was on the road and he didn't make it to town before Shabbos came, and he went off the road to the field to make Shabbos there. When some robbers saw this Jew in the field, they wanted to kill him. So he says, because this Goslin started beating him, and because this Jew was so megushendik, he says, I could not attack this Goslin who was beating him up, except through the behemoth, the horse strangling itself. And that's why I put a great fear on my servant. And the more fear that I put into my servant, the more fear fell on these bandits, until they were so afraid they left them alone. They ran away, and they ran away. And the simon that what I'm saying is true, you'll see very soon he's going to come into town, and he's going to tell everybody the story how he was saved miraculously from these Gazlonim. And sure enough, it happened soon thereafter. So this is the story about the Baal Shem HaKodesh for this Rosh Chodesh Elul. Now, Be'ez Hashem, we will move over to the story about the Heilige Rebbe Melech Schusot Again Aleinu. It's a very big inyan, Motzei Shabbos, to say stories of the Baal Shem Tov. Grandchildren of the Baal Shem Tov, should give out garlic on Motzei Shabbos. Doesn't matter if they're big or small, rich or poor, tzadikim. I'll call them tzadikim. Should get into the habit of giving out garlic. When the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, of the Rebbe Melech from the Ukraine, they asked the Baal Melech who should be the Rebbe, because they were moving over there and they needed the Rebbe. So he told them they should go to Sadlikov. Sadlikov was the town of the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, the Degel Machne Ephraim. And so his Talmud, the Tzaddik, Mendele Prisker, went to Sadlikov, and he came to the town of Sadlikov in Erev Shabbos Chodesh. And he went to the house of the Rav, and he told the Gabbai over there that he should go and ask Rishus, ask permission for him to come and see him. So the Sadikov Rav said, yeah, let him come. Now, the Degel Machne Ephraim could not stand the Hasidim from the Polish Hasidim, because they would say about them that they are fasting a lot and they don't understand the Drachim Avodas Hashem properly. And he would say that anybody who is fasting, he is diminishing his body, is diminishing his nefesh, because Baal who created the man in his own image, his guf and nefesh, and the derech of avodah and tanesim is foreign. It's a very known sheet of the Baal Shem Tov that he said he finished this way. It says Chazal said anybody who sits anytime at Chacham that sits in tainus is called a sinner, because the main thing is that he should complete his body and his nefesh should be complete together and fit together, except, it's just very famous from Derech Baal Shem HaKadosh. So when Pristike came before the Degel Malach Nefraim, so he accepted him rather coolly, So he became like, very demoralized, like so when Degel Malach Nefraim saw that, that he was taken aback, so, he was makabel him, graciously, and he says, tell me, were you by any tzaddik until now? Somebody who's real great in Avodas Hashem? So he said, yes. So he says, who is he and where is he? So he said, I was mishamash by my holy Rebbe and teacher, the Rebbe B'melech of Lizhensk, Zecher Tzadik Kodesh L'Rosh. And when the Degel Malach Nefraim heard the name of the holy name of the Rebbe B'melech, he became very excited. And he said, what did you see from this miraculous person, from Rebbe Melech? And the kavana from the Degel Malach Nefraim was to hear how he was mishabeach how he's praising his Rebbe. Because according to the way that you praise somebody, it shows what is important for you and who you really are. So you wanted to find out if he's going to tell him about the Moifsim and Moifsim Rebbe Melech Kenan Ahara, the many, or Inyan of Yeshamaim, Dveikus, what? So the Rav Tzaddik from Pristik said, I saw my holy teacher every single day when he would reflect in Yiras Shamayim, all his bones, all his body was shaking. And it's like his entire body was quaking from Yiras Hashem, from the awe of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And all his, all the veins would bulge and his face would change. He says, under the ear, there's one vein that I was makabel from my teacher, that this particular vein does not shake, does not tremble from anything except in the day when a person passes away. And he says, I saw that vein shaking by my Rebbe every single day. The Rebbe B'melech, from the Pachad Hashem of the awe. So the Degel Malach Nefraim, he says, such as great as the Madrega of the Chassidei in Poland, and I didn't know. And he was makabel the Menel from Pristik, Schus Egen Aleinu, as was makar of him. So he said they said about the brother of the Rebbe Melech, the Rebbe Reb Zisha from Anipoli, that was always asking and begging Kodesh Baruch Hu to have 2 years Shemayim. Once he davened upon himself that he should have such a big year, such a wondrous year, like an angel that has an awe of a Kodesh Baruch Hu from the inside of his heart, and a machshava. Well, you say, careful what you wish for. You got it. And he had such fear, he could not stand. He couldn't even sit. He hid under the bed. I mean, once he hid in the bed, once he hid, in the whatever crannies of the house, he had such a pachad. I mean, he didn't have koyach to withstand the fear that he felt. His soul almost left his body from the fear, from the awe of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he davened the HaKadosh Baruch Hu to take it off from him, and he returned to the way it was before. So the Rebbe of Zisha said, it's not possible that a Yid should be able to achieve such yira while he's in his body. I mean, it was to the point that his soul almost left his body. But Jwal didn't have Rachmanis on him. I mean, he would pass away. This is from these words, a person should learn the greatness of these tzadikim, their ishtekikos, their yearning to have yira and hava for Kodesh Baruch Hu. B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem will assist us with great mercy to purify ourselves and be ourselves to Yerushalayim, especially tonight. Today is Rosh Chodesh Elul. Kodesh Baruch Hu b'ezrat Hashem zaka us to 2 years Shemayim and to do tshuva. Elul, I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's like a scary, scary stuff. Let's take a quick look here in the Sichas Haran for tonight. Just 1 second. Just spoil on. And here we go. This is an incredibly important Sicha. Sicha 137, it's Shattered Torah, or that Moes, that coins, money, Zushatevis and Avera Mecha Torah, that Avera can lash out the schus of a mitzvah, but it cannot lash out Torah. So this similar is Reish Daled in Yekut Haran. And before the Rebbe said the story, he said the Maisa from 2 people, 2 young men, that when they were in the same city, they were, very close to one another. And once some of them saw in his friend that he went a bit off the derech, and it's something that it wasn't proper. So he thought, okay, listen, it's a coincidence. And then he saw that he did something worse. He actually did an avera. So he stayed away from him. He separated himself from him. And then, as the years went by, at the time, the young people used to eat by their in-laws. They both stopped, and that person that did the Avera started to go up and up, and he became very wealthy. And the second one became very poor. And he was always, he was very upset about this. He was always upset about, what the Kodesh Baruch Hu says. I know, I saw him doing Avera. Why are they giving him such such greatness. And once he stood in a place where there were some people, I'm not sure where this place is, because obviously it cannot be a physical place. He stood in one place that there were, a band of people, and they were making noise with the coins, a lot of coins. And he came to them and he says, don't touch these coins because it belongs to this person. In other words, his ex-friend. So he says, now is the time to ask. And he asked them, why does he deserve all this money? I saw with my own eyes that he did an affair. So they answered him, from the day that you both left the table of your in-laws, your friend was kaveh itim Torah. He receive a specific time every single day that he's learning Torah, and he accepted upon himself choik v'lo yavo. This is a very important sentence. And it's a law, that's it, no matter what, to learn every single day so-and-so. But you're not oisik b'Torah. You're not learning Torah. So that's why they give your friend, they give him money, even though he didn't avera. Because avera can lash out a mitzvah. But ein avera mechabed Torah. The ein avera mechabed Torah is a shotevas noise, money. Rabbeinu said, and this is a very, very important nakuda for each and every one of us. We all can find ourselves in many different situations in life. Remember once I said a friend of mine, we're in Oman, Erev Rosh Hashanah, and I said, we are each of us is writing a novel with our lives, with you being the protagonist. If you take a look at your life, all the ups and downs, all the backwards and forwards and incredible adventures that your life led you. And a person can find himself specifically in various points in his life where things are going hard in avodas Hashem. There are certain periods of time in which all kinds of mishigas can come to a person's mind. Being a teenager is not easy. There are certain kinds of bilbul when a person is in his 30s, to say nothing about what happens when a person is in his 40s, midlife crisis and stuff. And basically, a person can find himself, taking the wrong road, the fork, the road, taking the wrong turn, and find himself in a situation that the beginning looks, it's a big deal, but then you find yourself in a situation that you actually can be quite far. A person can be quite far from where he's supposed to be, and and you're standing there, and you have no idea how to get yourself back on the road, because what requires from you is beyond your capacity to want right now. And this is what Chazal says, Oli miyitzri, oli miyotzri, woe to me from my Tzahara, woe to me from my Creator. And you find it impossible to want. So Rabbeinu says at that point, it says that the koyach of the Torah is so great that if a person, no matter where he is, no matter how difficult it may be for him, if he will accept upon himself a certain amount of Torah, each one according to what he can, and oblige himself to learn this amount of Torah every single day, again, choik v'lo yavam. It's a law, no matter what, this is what you do every day. He says the power of the Torah is so great that it will take you, it can take a person from any place, no matter how low and how unable to want you find yourself. It'll take you out of it and bring you, B'ezrat Hashem, on the right road. B'ezrat Hashem. So, first of all, I want to wish all of you and me a good Chodesh and a good week. Elul, B'ezrat Hashem, with Uman, B'ezrat Hashem, Rosh Hashanah. You know, there's a story of David of Lelava, who was a Talmud of the Chayzer of Lublin, that made his way to Lublin for Yom Tov, but he wasn't able to get there, and he had to be Shabbos by a village which is not far from Lublin, but there he was stuck. It was Yom Tov, Shabbos, I don't know what it was. And there he was, you know, so near yet so far. And he said to himself, you know, there is my Rebbe, the huge tzaddik who's sitting at the head of the table. And I'm the lowliest and the smallest of all the Talmidim. So I came as close as I could. So the Rebbe has a very, very, very long tish, a very long table. And I'm sitting at the very end, at the next village. When they told Reb Nosson the story, he liked it a lot. So to repeat the same thing, Rabbeinu says that a Yid should have a determination that even though he's oinus, you know, that, you know, you said somebody is forced, so Mimela is considered as if he did it. Rabbeinu said this is good for somebody that wants to be considered as if he did it, but if he wants the actual mitzvah, he says, what good is it to him that they're making it okay as if he did it? He wants the mitzvah itself, not the credit as if he did it. So it says the rule for every single Jew to actually be pearled, to be B'ezrat Hashem, Uman, Rosh Hashanah. Those who want it and Shul Panifim cannot go, they're sitting at the end of a very, very long tish, B'ezrat Hashem with the tzaddik and the other side. Because Baruch Hu should help us, B'ezrat Hashem, to do tshuva. Rabbeinu says, doing tshuva, Rabbeinu says in Torah Ches, is all you need to do is basically take off the stupidity. The seichel comes in. When you start speaking to Kodesh Baruch Hu with fire, and you start seeing your averis, what you did, suddenly you start seeing who the Kodesh Baruch Hu is and who you are. He says, taking off the stupidity means it's a choice. You have a choice to take it off. Shem should give us the courage to take this choice and take off the stupidity, because then immediately the vacuum calls in for chokhmah, and then we can do real tshuva. B'ezrat Hashem should help us with Hashem this incredible Chodesh Elul. And B'ezrat Hashem, those who are interested, there is another shir in about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes in Hebrew, in Torah Samechai Bli Neder, also in Zoom. And those who, B'ezrat Hashem, I can see you, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see each other on Monday. This is the shir of Sipurey, B'ezrat Hashem. Have a good Voch and a good Chodesh, B'ezrat Hashem.